Welcome back to Build It Faster. We are your hosts, Mike and Joe, and Josh is back. Hi, Josh. Missed you, bud.
Hey, missed
Hey,
you guys
Josh.
too. What's going on?
Oh,
So
yeah.
much. He doesn't actually want me to answer that. It's just a polite way to greet somebody,
Yeah.
Because, he doesn't want me to start, just right out of the gate like that.
I mean, I've been hanging out with Josh, telling him the stuff that we're building, some of the stuff that I'm building. Josh got me using Proto Labs last week, and it was fun because it was kind of like a good crash test for Proto Labs on Windows, I think, and discovered a couple things. Yeah. And then anyway, the schedule didn't work out for me yesterday on the pod, and I was like, ooh, we can combo it up. Let's all just hang out tomorrow. And
Yeah.
so today is tomorrow, and here we are. Joe said he had some harness questions. It just seemed like a good time to get together.
Cool.
I did. I had a bunch of questions because Josh, you're probably the most advanced software factory creator that I personally know. Honestly, I don't know if you were surprised by that. I mean, you should act as if that's like, no, that's too much. Stop. Like, you obviously have to respond that way, but like, I don't know who else I would name. I don't know a lot of people either, so take that how you will. I mean, right? I mean, it's not unfair though. You were talking a while ago about the word signal popped up at a forward deployed engineer presentation by factory. They're like, yeah, what we do is we have the signal, and then it goes into triage, and I'm like, that's what Josh did. He should have been here. Everyone would have eaten Proto Star up.
Yeah. No, that's I'm honored, I guess.
Yeah,
To
be
start.
honored. That's the correct attitude.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would consider myself. I haven't done a lot in the kind of software factory domain for a couple months now. I've been kind of more focused on the distributed agents in general and not necessarily building out software. So yeah, now
What's the difference?
well, you don't necessarily need agents to build software for you. They can do things like Frank over here on my home lab system, who I can message when I'm looking for the latest, TV shows and movies to download to my seed box, right? And to provision new API keys for my Light ILLM gateway, right? So I can have that set up. And so basically, what I've done over the last year in the terminal with Claude Code, I've slowly just been bundling those different workflows and skills into my own agents, so I can kind of pull my reliance away from Claude or other frontier model systems and start delegating some of these smaller tasks to local systems and agents. I don't necessarily need Claude Code to download the latest season of, I guess not latest season, but Ren and Stimpy, for instance. I had all the Ren and Stimpy episodes downloaded last night, and then Frank messaged me on Discord this morning to remind me that I had those available to me and to enjoy.
I like the term claw to refer to a identity that has some durable identity, durable state, where Frank, you have a named pet, not cattle agent, Frank, that has channels that can be engaged on and exhausted to, and that has some kind of memory. When you talk to him, you don't have to remind him who he is and what's going on. He's got a function, a role, right? You talk to Frank if you want this, you talk to whoever if you want that, right? And I refer to those now as a claw, right? An open claw or a Hermes instance. One, how was that term landing with you? And are there any other things worth disambiguating? Like I heard you say workflows. Do you have an 88N going on? Do you have a markdown file that describes a procedure you hope it follows and it's doing good enough such that you can call it a workflow and it usually works? Or, talk to me about some of the more technical stuff, although Mike, feel free to pull us in any direction. I kind of just crashed your party.
Question. No, I want to add to the question. One other thing that I see overlapping with like agents, when I was working with you, Josh, on Proto Labs, and then going back to the cloud ecosystem this week, I was like, Josh has these like agents, and he was telling me I can like train individual agents for individual purposes and kind of, be able to engage them depending on what I'm trying to do at a given time. But in the cloud ecosystem, like there's no really concept of agents in that way, like not named agents or anything like that, but I have projects. And so if I want to do something within a certain context, I go and I work in that project, and it kind of feels like a different agent. And so I'm wondering, what is the difference or the delineation there between like a project, which is like a folder that contains files, could be any kind of files, but also like MD files, which are going to be like context and basically behavioral, like a behavioral, what would you even call it? Instruction set or whatever for the agent at the time. But I feel like every time I open a new thread, it's like a new agent is spawning and they're reading all the context and getting going. When I'm working in a project, I don't know if there's a difference between that and what one would be doing in Proto Labs with a named agent. So anyway,
Yeah.
trying to build on what Joe was asking.
That was a good addition.
Yeah, I mean, I think these are all very valid ways to describe an agent, right?
Okay.
I think,
So maybe
and
synonyms?
well,
Or
yeah,
kind of
I
speaking
mean,
in
I
synonyms?
think when I think of an agent, I think of, I mean, I feel like an agent could be as simple as, your bespoke, coding directory, for instance, like each of my, apps, my repo directories that I work with Claude in, each have their own .Claude directory that each has its own skill sets, if I so choose, right? Has its own context for that repo. Despite the fact that I'm using Claude in each of those repos, I consider those kind of different agents, right? They're different workspaces, kind of like in your system in Cowork, right? Each of those projects that you have are bespoke containers with that specific context and memories around that workflow, right? And I guess depending on how it's set up, there might be some cross-project memories or things like that. I'd have to dig into how Cowork is set up a bit more. But yeah, realistically, like, I do have agents running in separate processes, but that's not to say like you can still have one, I guess, process running with a single agent that has sub agents and their own workflows and their own tools. So I don't know. I think it's hard to pin down exactly like what an agent is. I think the important thing is to not try to I think the biggest thing is to not try to pin down like that idea. I think it's more important to kind of get comfortable with just building out context and keeping those chunks of context within those specific domains like you're kind of working with in the project. So, one thing, Joe, you talked about like kind of workflows versus agents. I really think, I don't know, I think I see a lot of people reaching for agents where, deterministic workflows work just as well. And I do that all the time too, right? There's plenty of things I have over engineered. I could pull up a scan of my local system and there's, I don't know, 15 different agents all spun up, that I can access. I'm not using all of those like productively, and a lot of them are for development and a lot of them are like not necessary, right? Like I don't need to have an agent that I can message and say, hey, pull me down Ren and Stimpy to my torrent box, right? There's a lot of extra steps there that aren't necessary. Not necessarily, you don't necessarily need an LLM and whatnot to make that happen. Now, what I will say is, for me, it's more about the experimentation and pushing these things to kind of their limits where I can, right? And seeing how I can get these systems to interact and collaborate across different systems. But what I do find really valuable in AI, and I've talked about it here a bit, is kind of that idea of the path of desire, right? And setting up these agentic systems with these various tools to kind of just see what that happy path looks like, and by evaluating and set up observability so you can really see what's going on under the hood and in between these functions, you can start, isolating where those agents really want to line up. Mike, there was that skill you were working on around, like uploading your images and tagging them and stuff like that, right? I think we worked on that a few weeks ago.
Kind of made more of it more programmatic so that it wasn't the LLM doing all of the lifting. By the way, I did that and I ran it and it finished in like 2 minutes or something. It was really fast
Awesome.
after doing that.
And
Nice.
and like obviously that feels really cool, like the initial magic of having the AI like go through all those steps and see it all happen and feels really, really cool. But as you saw, it's not necessarily always reliable, right?
Yeah, reliable or efficient. Like
Right.
it had both of those problems. And I think it makes sense as a workflow to kind of like, okay, I'm going to try to accomplish this task regardless of how efficient it is. Like, I just want to know it can be done. And then once you can prove like it worked one time, then it's almost like you have like only half the work is done. Now you got to turn around and figure out how to optimize it, how to make it efficient, how to make it reliable. And not just reliable, but I think in the vein of efficiency as well, it's like I could build something out and rely really heavily on like Opus or Fable or whatever. But it's like when I run this thing, I want to use like Haiku or Sonnet. I want to be able to run it like and not burn any tokens like at all, in future runs. So it's much better now for sure after we talked about that. And something else based on what you were saying, Josh, sounds like a little bit like you don't want to let too narrow of a definition of what an agent is or any of the other terms that you might substitute for an agent. You don't want to let like too narrow of a definition hold you back from quality context engineering. It's
Yeah,
like the
that and also
context engineering is the point.
yeah, because I mean, and also like I had to get past the idea of thinking of agents in these really kind of small compartmentalized roles, right? Like we
Yeah.
have talked about it quite a bit around the idea of like, yeah, just build out the agents as like a dev team, right? You've got your project manager and your product manager, but realistically, AI can handle a lot more than we can bandwidth wise, right? So that agent can manage the project, manage the product, and then potentially do some like technical stuff on top of that, right? Maybe some QA or whatever, right? And so kind of by trying not to undersell the systems. Well, I don't know. Us as humans, I think we have this need to kind of like put these systems in the box, and especially like around how we interact and view the world, right? And more so I'm trying to move away from that. Yeah, I mean realistically this is all just an automation problem, right? And that's not necessarily a new problem space. And I think really when you're looking at automation, what you have to decide is where does the extra work to automate that process come in, and when does that become valuable? Like at what point is it worth spending 2 days automating it so you can turn on your lights with your voice or whatever? If you're doing something like once a year, is it worth spending the several weeks automating that, or is there a faster, more efficient way to do it? Just either manually or one of the kind of workflows you can leverage. But I mean, for me, it's about pushing these systems as far as they can go. Right? It's not necessarily. I don't necessarily know that the complexity of the systems I'm building are necessary, but I do know that if I come across a complex enough problem to warrant this, that I'll be ready for it, right? And that's kind of where I'm at with it. I'm not, you talk about like the software factory stuff, like I've kind of moved away from that a little bit just because I like my flows working within the terminals, right? And managing the agents in my own way. And I think trying to package that up into a product for other people has kind of just, I don't know, it's been a bit of a fight that I think I'm going to leave to other people. No, it's like what I'm looking for now is more towards thinking about like knowledge workers, trying to get people like you, Michael, who spend a lot of time in like Claude Cowork, right? Trying to as you're looking to kind of as you're starting to feel restricted and boxed in by Claude Cowork and its capabilities, right? Once you're starting to look into getting a little more technical and kind of owning some of the stuff under the hood, that's a space I'm kind of looking to end up in right now.
I want to pull on workflows a bit. Concretely, what does a workflow now look like? Because I've got a bunch of opinions on it, but I'm curious to hear how it looks like to you. Because, we've always been automating, but there's new levers to pull. And so I guess I've got a two-part question. What literally are you using for workflows? Are you reaching for N8N? Are you using X state? Are you... you could just write code and nothing matters, and it's whatever the hell, TypeScript it came up with, and it just kind of runs it in steps or bash scripts or whatever. And then two, are you just letting this thing YOLO over your life? The one reason I haven't just plugged Codex into Hermes and just given it access to everything is because I have this concern for blast radius that I think other people don't have, and I might be hurting myself by trying to hyper constrain my agent so that it can only do certain things, or it's like a draft only. Like if the MCP grants you total right, well, now I have to build an intermediate that grants just draft using the right permission, and I don't give it the token, and and I'm going to, and I'm doing it, and it's going to be useful in my enterprise context because you can't do it otherwise.
Right.
And that's where I'm getting into software factory, where I'm not building the software factory, I'm building a machine that does this product iteration the way you need it done, right? Like, and we'll have like 1,000 of these at the company, and maybe I'll make a machine that makes those eventually, but like I'm not there yet.
Right.
But so talk to me about the literal concrete workflows and about YOLO and blast radius and how you think about it, and are you just not getting burned by it? Because maybe you just got to get over that. Like, are you sandboxing? Like,
yeah. So I mean, I guess to kind of back up a bit, like I'm definitely interested in the software factory problem. I'm just not interested in solving that for myself. I'd be happy to consult or I'd be happy to come in and help build that out for other people, but I've solved coding myself, right? I don't need to further iterate or optimize. I can build a product from start to finish, no problem, right? And so, but yeah, going back to the blast radius and kind of some of that stuff, obviously that's going to have to be very, that's a person by person decision, I guess, and obviously like working in enterprise and things can be different. But for me, Claude has had root access on my system for a year now, right? And so I have hooks to prevent anything too drastic, RF, those kinds of things. Like I definitely have a few safety guardrails in place, but no, ultimately I've just YOLO'd, right? And I've been YOLOing. I mean, I started YOLOing. It's such ridiculous. I've been YOLOing for 3 years now.
But professional YOLOer.
But no, I mean, I started using the bypass permissions on Cursor 2 years ago or something like that, right? And I would watch it and I would make sure to stop. But no, I just trust the system. And so to me, it's kind of interesting when I see these ideas or these posts of people talking about how the AI deleted their whole system or, whole database or whatever,
The guy's home directory. And I sassed him on Twitter. I was like, but put your model in a sandbox. What do you mean trust the model? Are you crazy?
Right.
Who's trusting their model? Apparently a lot of people actually.
Well, and I've always been using the highest end model to top, the most, the state of the art, the latest, greatest. So maybe that's part of it. I wouldn't trust Quen 27B, with root access and unsupervised, right? Like that's all. Okay. That's not it. But I am comfortable enough to let something like that run while I'm watching, right? And then I can, if I do see something like out of line, I can interject. But like I said, things like hooks to prevent destructive actions, right? Or require it to be, human in a loop or whatever, authorized for that and that to happen. So no, I would say like get yourself a container and just go for it. Because once it's about building that trust for yourself, I think, right? And really kind of, and maybe, like I said, it's different for you and I. You have enterprise concerns and all that kind of thing. So it's not something I really like. I'm not going to.
My blast radius includes your 401k, okay?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I'm just saying, it does. It does. If you're in indexes and my company is harmed by the blast radius, you could lose money because of me. You won't though, because I'm careful.
All right.
Yeah, I'm not. I guess I'm a lot more careful with work, sort of. And I think about it. I don't know. I guess I have that connected to most things too. I don't give it like root access to my computer.
Are you letting it do it without approving it? Because I've got mine connected to everything, but I'm there going, you may do that. You may do that. Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's my life.
Decline.
Yeah. That's my life at work right now. And yeah, when it's like, oh, I need to access your file system, I'm like, decline. I don't know why you need to dig around on the files on this computer, and I've done the same thing in a personal context on my personal computer many times now. And I don't know, after hearing Josh right there, I think I'm just going to say yes next time. Be like, go for it, dude. Get after it. Like that, whatever. Just get in there. I don't even care anymore.
After going to the conference, I'm not going to lie, I do right now. It's even right now while we're talking. It's running with full access on Codex. It's just on right now for the stuff that for the stuff that I trust it to do, but I'm not having it, manipulate my private data. I'm having it do, stuff on a public GitHub repo.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Which is different. It could mess with my stuff, but like the model probably won't, and I'm watching it.
Right, yeah.
I was pretty wide open with my trust. Like I actually came in really trusting. And then real early on, there was a time when Claude was like, yeah, like, just grab that key and give it to me here. And I grabbed the key and I gave it the key. And it was like, don't paste that in chat. And I was like, you fucking asked me to do this. And now you're telling me I'm the idiot. And I am the idiot for doing this. But like,
give me that key.
How am I supposed to trust you now? Like, hey, what am I can't give you root access to go do whatever. You're going to do something stupid. And then you'll be like, no, I shouldn't have done something stupid. Like, right. You asked.
Why would you give me the keys?
Yeah, not like that.
It's great. Yeah, it was I felt embarrassed,
I'm not misaligned. I can drive. It's like, no, don't give him the keys.
It was like, go regenerate the key, you fool. And I'm like, oh, geez, great. So
yeah,
I mean, I won't a little bit of trust issue there, but it's starting to fade. It's been long enough now. It's starting to fade, and it hasn't done me dirty like that in a while. So I'm like, just get after it.
That's what it is. It's just like, again, building that trust. I've spent tens of thousands of hours like sitting and chatting with AI and watching it like do the work, right? this was why last summer I got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm literally just copy and pasting this output into this review and copy and pasting this review into this, and it's all working like fine, right? Like, yeah, maybe I have to like adjust some things or whatever, but ultimately this is better work than I see most people putting through. So at that point, it was like, cool. So then that's when I started just literally letting CodeRabbit review and having the AI respond to that review and handle all that stuff, because I was literally just copy and pasting that. And when I did that enough times, you're like, okay, cool, I can automate this, right? And that kind of goes back to the beginning of the conversation is like, yeah, it's an automation problem. And until all those workflows, those individual tool calls combined to make those larger workflows are robust and working damn near 100%, like until that's happening, you don't want to automate that, right? You automate a workflow that works 50% of the time. That's not a workflow, right? I don't even know what that would be. I guess that'd be like a slot machine or something, right?
Yeah, right.
So yeah, I mean, it's really just like I think it's a personal journey that everyone's gonna have to figure out, right? It's like, hey, Josh, how are you using AI? And I can tell you how I'm using AI, and I'm certain that the majority of people will go cross-eyed and go, what the hell are you doing, right? Like, because I've gotten into my own workflows, and now we are in the age of personal workflows and personal tooling and personal, and everybody just needs to figure out how to get there themselves, because there's only so much I can do and sit here and tell you how amazing this stuff is and how fast I'm working, but until you start developing that muscle memory and those like instincts yourself, it's an experience game, and so yeah, finding like, that's why I've been shoving AI in everything. Maybe it doesn't live everywhere and stay everywhere, but I now know what happens when I throw it against this thing or throw it against that thing. I know where limits are, right?
So something that I have been working on, and Josh, I linked it to you. Don't read the code. I certainly haven't, but have an agent summarize the architecture for you. I've been coding in shapes recently, where I care a lot about what it's doing. I'm not going to read it. I'm not going to read the code, but I know enough. I can tell you what's probably happening in there. But so no, this will be fun. So I am obsessed with Pi now. Pi.dev. You can log into your Codex subscription from Pi. You might be able to do it with Claude. You could definitely do it with GitHub Copilot. I just confirmed I can do that at work. And Pi is like the smallest possible agent, right? The vanilla Pi is like the smallest possible agent. It's got like read, write, and bash.
Mm-hmm.
No sub agents, YOLO, right? It's just the minimal possible thing.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to build a harness of any kind, I would say build on Pi. And the first thing that I did was the Pi terminal UI, right? That's one component. And then the Pi SDK is the other component. And you open Pi and it gives you the terminal and you say, do this. And it uses the SDK to do the loop on maybe your auth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, so I sent you the Pi crust. That's the thing you put the Pi filling in, of course.
Sure.
So Pi-crust, it's an extension that like hijacks the context window, because if you follow someone like Matt Pocock and he's like, oh, you run the grill me and then you do like the specification and then you put this here, but it's like you're still kind of managing your context window. Like you got to open a fresh one and like move like the files around, and like you got to be like, yeah, that worked, I'm happy with that, and let me do this now. And it's a fine workflow, and I'm not even saying it's inferior to what I've done with it, but I was like, oh man, that's a state machine. And so I hijacked the seam and I'm projecting this context in a way where it triggers his literal skill, and at the end you can run a / command to have an artifact manager, refreshes the context, builds it for you, and now you're into the next steps.
Oh,
right?
yeah, okay.
So far it appears that generalizes, and the steps that you would take don't even necessarily require the terminal interface, right? And the steps that are taken don't even necessarily need to be a Pi agent. I mean, we've known this since LangGraph, right?
Mm-hmm.
That the nodes, they could just be a script or whatever. And so I was like 5 episodes behind publishing on the pod, and I was like, okay, we're going to automate this. I need you to make a state machine in Pi, and the first thing we're going to do is, if I give you a transcript, you're going to turn the transcript into a, title, description, and a nano banana prompt, right? And it's not just printing it out to me, it's got like a hard-coded artifact, this is where it's going to be an iterated on and versioned system, right? And then I was like, great, next thing we're going to do in the state machine, because right now it's only got one state, is a reviewer. And we're going to have a loop that runs up to 2 times before it applies an enum of approve or reject, right? And so we're like kind of dialing it in. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
And then I realized, I can use my Codex sub to do image generation. And so I made another step that takes in the nano banana prompt and shoves it into image gen and then makes me not only the thumbnail for the YouTube video, but runs another step in like Python, a deterministic step to crop it to 1080 and keep it under 2 megs, right?
Yeah.
Now, you could probably give an agent, I'll call it, all the capabilities that I just described to you and demand this of them. And you'd probably wind up with a title, a description, and a thumbnail. You probably would. But I can guarantee that not only do I, but there is no other action it could possibly take because I ripped all of its tools out. Like
Right.
the only thing it can do is invoke the harness effects that I have granted.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I mean, a lot of what you're describing to me feels like lang graph, right? That's what I that's what I build my agents on, right? So proto agent is lang graph. They have a whole like, create React agent helper that you can wrap it in, and then it's got a bunch of middleware, right? And so basically my workflows are lang graph state machines, right? And so you have that state, you have checkpointing, you have all that. And so the middleware for me is kind of in some of your ways that part of that loop, right? Where the middleware handles the compaction, it handles a degenerate tool calling. Like the Quen 27B had this issue where it would just like it would get caught in this tool loop. And so basically it can only do that twice, and then it gets scolded basically, and it's like, hey, do something else. This isn't working. So I haven't.
And you're hooking into the tool call to catch those.
Yeah, and so actually the whole like everything is wrapped. So my whole system is a plugin based system, and you can tap in as a plugin author into any of that middleware, into any of the context, and kind of help manipulate that. So yeah, slash commands and all that fun stuff like distill. So yeah, I think we're kind of approaching the problem in similar ways. Pi does seem cool. I haven't messed with it a whole lot just because I've been in LangChain and LangGraph, and it's the same thing because LangGraph is, I mean, literally you can have like start with just 2 tools, right? And so that's why I've always liked it. But yeah, for me, like my brain thinks in those ways of like the nodes and the edges, and you have things like
state
the
machine. Yeah.
Turn, like I have turn limits, right? So my sub agents can only flip maximum of 30 turns or whatever, right? And then at that point it goes, okay, cool, I'm done. Here's what I got, and it hands it back. So yeah, I mean, I definitely want to see more of this crust state machine though.
It is funny, by the way, just reading the website, like it's fun to see so much advertisement for what it isn't, It's like what we didn't build. If you're on pi.dev, what we didn't build.
Yeah.
No MCP, no subagents, no permission pop-ups, no plan mode, no built-in to-dos, no background bash. It's just, we didn't build anything. This app is nothing.
Yeah, and that's why Proto Agent just starts out as just the core with plugins, right? Because it's the same idea. Is you got Proto Agent or Hermes Agent, you got OpenClaw, and they just come with everything, right? They're just bloated out of the gate.
Well, so that's why I like Pi so much, is if you're going to be reaching for a minimal agentic execution unit, it's going to be Pi, and then you're going to extend it into whatever you need it to be. And like they advertise as download Pi and then start bitching at Pi to turn into what you need it to be. I think that's fine for a lot of people. I am using it as factory substrate.
Yeah.
Right? Where I'm using what can be hooked into and how I can project things in a certain way where they have solved agent primitives. I don't need to make those ever. And I can hook it into my Codex, no problem. Right? And so it's been actually pretty sweet not having to just eating into my quota to test these things. I don't even need an OpenAI key.
Right.
Now,
right?
I've been using the Claude app as basically my only real harness, and then I finally started getting exposure to just the world of harnesses, I guess, really through you guys. And I still don't fully understand how it works when you have like a subscription. It's like if I wanted to use pi.dev, I have a Claude subscription. How does it like know to use my Claude tokens?
So the way it works, so Claude, I'm not sure if actually it is supported because Anthropic's like kind of yes and no about it, but the way it works with Codex and with GitHub Copilot is you open up Pi, you run /login, it goes through a device authentication through OAuth, like anything would log into that service, and then you have a token that you can use to run your commands. And so I open up Pi, /login. Now I'm logged in. I can use my
Slash login
Codex
to what?
subscription. /login, and then it'll open up to, do you want to log in to Codex
It'll
or
ask you what you
Anthropic
want to log
or
into.
GitHub Copilot? So you got to pick one. And so I click Codex, and then it's like, the browser pops up, and I type in the code to be like, yeah, go ahead and, finalize the OAuth flow. And then my token is pulled down, and then it can now make the same requests Codex has been making as the client to that provider. Anthropic, though, there was a whole controversy, does not like when you do that. Or they didn't like when you do that. Or they might soon not like that you do that. I don't know.
They don't like you using
they
a
came
harness
out.
that's not their own?
They do not.
No, they came out and they changed that. So
they're chilling now, right?
they
Now
made
they're
a
cool?
full statement that said you can use because they were going to, June 16th, they were going to make it so that you had to use like extra usage for any of the headless paths, which would have broken a lot of these systems, but they changed that. And so, yeah, because of all the pushback.
I failed immediately.
There you go then. And the reason they had to do that is because OpenClaw users were taking their Claude sub, where $200 gets you 5,000 of compute spend, plugging into their OpenClaw and having that run every 10 minutes to check their email, and it's like murdering the subsidy.
Yeah, or build Flappy Bird for
margin.
the fifth time.
They're just like, yeah, I'll take all the compute you have, and they're like, we can't do this. We don't have enough GPUs. But there was enough backlash that they had to undo it.
Yeah, and people like OpenAI were just allowing it, so they had to, compete, of course.
I'm doing this right now. I've installed Pi, I've run Pi, and I've typed /login. I'm logging in to Claude in my browser.
Caution, it's YOLO.
Successful. What do you mean?
I mean, if you tell it to delete your hard drive, it will complete that activity.
Like what? Just Pi will? You're saying?
Right now, you are talking to something that does not check with you before it runs something.
That's awesome. I need that. I need to be careful with what I'm asking.
I'm just telling you, if you want this thing to do something and you say the wrong thing, it's a Wishmaster situation. It's just going to do it. Pi is awesome. Don't be surprised if you hurt yourself because you weren't watching an
don't log
unconstrained
into
Model F with your life.
Don't log into it from the root directory. You want to at least go into a directory.
You'll be fine. Ask it how it's doing. That's probably safe. Ask it how it's doing. And there you go. You're in Pi. And then you can, for example, have your Claude subscription, or Pi, build you the ideal Pi harness. You can also download Oh My Pi, which is a batteries included. It's got sub-agents, it's got MCP, it's got all sorts of stuff. It's got / do it until it's done or whatever. They had /goal before /goal was a thing. But my use case does not match either of your use cases. I am interested in extremely dialed in. The harness lets it do almost nothing, and it's not even like you can do everything and I'll check if it's okay. It's like you can do nothing and I'll grant you this and I'll grant you that, because we're doing stuff on enterprise. That's my use case, so this might not land for you. But if you want to save some tokens, and if you love YOLO, you can get into Pi and tell it to be whatever you want it to do.
Son of a bot. All right. Well, I'll tell you what.
I've been in the chamber since the whole time I was talking.
I did. How are you doing? And how do we do this safely? I don't want to nuke my PC on accident. The answer I got was error 400, and it's Claude responding with third-party apps now draw from your extra usage, not your plan limits. Add more at Claude.
That's too bad.
So it's literally, I have to set up Claude to burn extra tokens, which I currently have disabled, and then I'm immediately burning extra tokens when I use third-party stuff. So it's I can't use that alone might make me switch.
Yeah.
If you switch now, you might get a couple of banked resets, bro. I have too many resets. I've been hammering Sol. I've been hammering 5.6 Sol on medium all week. I burned my whole week in 2 hours and then reset it, because my resets get banked for me to be apply this now. I think I'm ready to reset my usage now. And every time they get another million users, he's just been handing out resets like candy. I don't know if they're done doing that, but I have a month worth of resets right now.
So let's say you got a guy who's been in the cloud ecosystem for a bit. He's got some projects going, and he's like, I want to switch to Codex, right? What's the best way to get your projects over? Because I think my projects are just in a Claude directory. I could probably just move those out to some other general directory and tell Codex where that's at and just pick up where I left off, I would assume.
You could probably export your Claude.ai. You go to Claude.ai and just export your data, and then you could also have Codex just be like, hey, go rip all my Claude shit into
Codex, that's what I was thinking.
into an escrow, okay?
Yeah.
Put it into where it's gonna go. Because Josh, I'd also like to hear your comments, one on extraction and conversion, but two on avoiding lock-in? Or are you just all in on Claude and it doesn't matter?
I mean, for terminal coding, I'm still just like all in on Claude. But as far as like all my personal setups and where I'm like storing my own personal context and managing that kind of stuff, yeah, it's all in Proto Agent and my own personal flows and leveraging the, everything I build leverages an OpenAI API compatible gateway, right? Because then I can just plug it into any of my systems. But yeah, no, I mean, that's largely what I spend my time with Claude doing, is building out my own tools and systems to become independent of needing Claude. But yeah, I mean, I think that's really what I want to start seeing and start helping with, is getting people more comfortable, like kind of breaking away from Claude Cowork or Codex specifically, right? I think they're all powerful tools, but I think, what I'm seeing is a lot of people that run out of their usage and are just lost, and I want to help people get away from that, because I think there's a lot of people using a semi truck to pull around a golf cart, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, like, yeah, even in my own use cases, it's so easy to just open it up and Opus is there. Let me have Opus do this really trivial thing. So trying to like pull away from that and routing some of these things to bespoke workflows or MCPs, but within that, managing it in a kind of a central spot, so that, yeah, if I want to switch to Codex or I want to switch somewhere else, it's just a matter of putting that MCP tool or package to that new agent harness.
Yeah, well, that's owning your context. That's what I was getting at, is like Mike's, like when he says projects, he's talking about the context organization provided by the Claude product, possibly on his machine, but for the
So my alarm also.
yeah, but for the go ahead.
Well, they're folders. They're just folders on my computer. I could like open the directory in File Explorer right now, which is why I'm saying, like, even if it's full of like,
Oh, well, then you're good.
that's what I'm saying. I mean, but it's in. Let me see right now. There's some not.
I think Codex also does .Claude.
Yeah,
it's like
I mean, that's
.Claude compatible. Although Claude is not .anything compatible. Good grief.
Yeah, my shit is in documents/Claude/projects. And so I feel like I can just move projects out of the Claude directory into
Keep them there.
I guess, yeah. I guess I could just be like, Codex, they're all in the Claude directory. That's where I want you to work from. It's my Claude directory. Yeah, whatever. But I could just do what I want to do, it sounds like.
You could.
Symlink it or
Now I
whatever.
gotta decide what I want to do.
I mean, part of that too is just like being able to point the Codex at that system and have it digest in its own way too, right? Like, give it the context and have it absorb it. You're going to end up with a better result than trying to point another harness at a different harness and have it try to conform to that harness, right?
Yeah. Have you, Joe, yeah, I guess Joe, because you've been using Codex more. Have you used like the mobile app at all?
I use the absolute crap out of the mobile app. Yes.
How's that going? Good?
It's wonderful.
Does it
oh
keep
my
track
God,
of-
it's so nice.
Does it do a good job of keeping track of your projects and stuff across ecosystems, like from your desktop or laptop or whatever to your phone?
I only use my Mac laptop for Codex
Okay.
right now. Like I don't have it running on like my server or whatever.
Okay.
And so
can you
I
pull
have
up a
attached
thread
to-
on your phone and see like everything
Yeah,
you were
dude.
doing? I'm not saying you
Yeah,
have to
well,
show me right now,
I-
but the reason I'm
Yes.
asking is because I have a project in Claude. I did all this work on my PC, and then I'm out and I have a thought and I want to pull it up on my phone and start to work on it. It's like, sorry, dude, I've never heard of any of that. I don't know what you're talking about. And it's miserable. And they're just now starting to release some features that are kind of building some bridges, so it's getting easier, but I still
I
don't
wonder if it's
have
at a different spot, because like I have to click remote to go into
Yeah, you have to
those threads.
They
Yeah,
have
then-
dispatch, which is kind of a stupid feature.
That's on
I
the
hate
cloud.
that.
You don't want that.
Yeah,
you
I don't
want
know.
to F with your local threads. Because so what I have is on my mobile app, I'll click remote and it's like your laptop, the list of threads you've been doing, and new thread, and I can like pick a project and be like, I have an idea for this one, work tree.
And
Make
to
it
do
do
that,
this now.
your computer has to be accessible at the time, right?
It has to be on. I don't
yeah.
know. Well, it's so as well. I'm on Tailscale. I don't know if this would work without Tailscale. I don't know if they're going like over the internet or if it's a LAN thing. Because if it's that, then maybe I just accidentally have awesome connectivity. My laptop has Tailscale. My phone has Tailscale, and so those devices are always on a local network, no matter where I am in the world.
No, yeah, I think Claude has like the remote thing. I think part of the problem with Claude is they have that separation of co-working Claude code.
So annoying.
And it like,
so
every time I try to help you or anybody using it, I'm just like, I don't know. Oh, we're in this other context, but it's not this context.
And I use both. I've been pushing PRs. I've been using Claude Code, pushing PRs. There's this whole thing that I do that I started in Claude Code, so I just keep doing it in Claude Code, and I've never switched back over to Cowork for it, but I have a lot of other projects that started in Cowork. The separation there is so frustrating. Is it not like that with Codex? Codex doesn't have any.
Not only is it not like that with Codex, they just shoved ChatGPT in there. It's all one app now, which Theo said killed the product. I haven't watched that video yet. I love it. I also listened to the guy on Lenny's podcast, and he made a compelling argument for the combination. I'm all about it.
It should be one freaking tool, man. If I want to code with it, let me code with it. If I want to do other stuff, let me do other stuff. But having all this separate, like Claude, I get lost. And you can tell that they're trying, like they're changing things. But in my opinion, they almost made it worse because they had like chat, co-work code at the top. And now it's co-work. Sorry, now it's code or home. And when you click home and start a thread, you have to decide whether it's a co-work or a chat thread. And when it's co-work, you basically pick a
My God.
It's so dumb. It's so dumb. And it's infuriating.
They'll probably fix it. They'll probably fix it.
They'll probably make it better.
That sounds pretty bad.
I know. I think if I just wait, it'll continue to get better. Because like I said, what did happen, I'm still not able to find the stuff that I've started on my computer, the projects I started on my computer. I can't see on my phone. But everything I've done on my phone, this is a list of projects, all of them show up on my computer now. And they weren't before. So now when I open the Claude app on my computer, I can see all of the projects that I've done from my phone. And that is sweet. That's nice. And it's like, I feel like they're trying. They're getting me there.
And I think there's like maybe it's
but now I kind of want to play with Pi, and it's like you're gonna do that to me. There's not a good word for the thought that just came to my head. There were a couple different terms that I just dismissed, but they're doing me dirty.
They are doing you dirty, and it's kind of their fault for not buying more GPUs sooner.
I honestly would recommend, though, if you're experimenting with new harnesses, don't go throw yourself into a project you're already working on, right? I would go in and find something that you're comfortable with it getting blown up, if you don't have it get control or whatever.
Yeah, like don't go ruin something that I've done.
Well,
ask Claude to set your Pi up with Open Router's free models.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. Well, then, also it's good to see like the model that and have experienced in a different harness though too, I think, because then it's like, that's one less variable, right?
How are you going to get Opus in there though? Because they don't want you to use Pi.
What's that thing? I'm confused by that because I'm looking it up and it's literally like, on June 15th, they said they were pausing that. So I don't know why that piece is.
There was a whole back and forth, and I thought they chilled out on that, but I don't know.
Either way, point being, whatever model you use, the point I'm trying to make is that, you're jumping into a new harness. It's going to be obviously working completely differently. And it's more about getting in there and playing with the harness and seeing how it works than going, hey, there's a new harness. Let me throw out that project I was working on and just expect it to continue where it was, right? It's more about you learning how these different harnesses are working and how they're like affecting like the model and things like that. In my opinion, that's I think the value.
No, I agree, and I want to expand on that just for a sec. It's like just playing around with Protolabs, just playing around for 2 seconds with Pi. I'd love to have gotten further, but I've also played with ChatGPT. I've played with Claude, and like I feel like having exposure to multiple harnesses is helping me understand like a lot more about what this technology is and how it's supposed to work in general. Like what even is a harness? What even is an agent? What even is an LLM? And it's like they have these different user interfaces because everyone's still trying to figure out like how should the user interface work for different people who have different needs, and like should it be everybody uses one UI or we separate the UIs based on what type of worker it is, and you see all this experimentation happening. But it's helping me really understand. I almost think of it as like if you have like an iPhone and an Android, like there's a lot of differences, but if you play around with both of them for long enough, you understand what is like mobile technology and like what a browser is on the phone and like what messaging apps are. Like you start to get a feel for it and you start to understand like what the differences are between them, but what they have in common and what like the basic technologies are that are underlying it. Not that any of the tech is basic, but the base technologies is a better word. The base technologies underlying the different harnesses or that are being utilized by the different harnesses. So
And some of that comes
it's
down
been
to
good for me.
And some of that comes down to what you are looking for as a user within those devices, right? And
Oh,
how they work with
absolutely.
your
Yeah, great. Thank
workflows.
you.
And it's very similar to.
You just helped kind of like put a period at the end of my sentence there, which is like that exposure is helping me understand exactly what it is I even need. Because I if I'm only stuck in the Claude ecosystem, I might think like, oh, the technology doesn't exist yet for what it is that I want. And then I talked to Joe, and he's like, oh, well, Codex has that. They don't even use that concept of separation between the different tools and the UIs. It's just what you're in it, and that might solve my specific problems if I were to switch to a harness that is set up.
So with that, I was able to regain control in a minute to go here.
You got it.
Josh, as always, I thank you so much for your time and your expertise. I do look forward to sharing more with you as I continue to develop in this direction, because I want some feedback from someone who's actually suffered through some of this. But I'm pretty happy with where it is so far, and I love that you're working with Mike to dial in his process.
Yeah,
Thank
you guys both.
Happy to continue working with you guys and continue chatting. Let's keep doing it.
I love it. Every time the bleeding edge scabs over on me, you guys rip that scab right back.
You're welcome. That's never going to heal.
Gross. There we go.